Hey everyone, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world, including this one, and all in one place. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. Few names from American history evoke as much admiration and as much misunderstanding as Sacagawea. To generations of Americans, she's the teenage native guide who led Lewis and Clark across an untamed continent. The calm, wise woman who pointed the explorers toward the Pacific. Her image has appeared on coins, monuments, and murals. She's been celebrated as a symbol of courage, motherhood, and cross-cultural unity. But the real Sacagawea, the woman behind the legend, lived a far more complex and often tragic life. She wasn't the expedition's leader. She wasn't its translator in every sense. She didn't even volunteer. Yet her presence transformed the journey, and her story, reclaimed from myth, reveals much about the contradictions at the heart of America's westward expansion.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
A quick word from our sponsors. This day in history. On December 16, 1773, a group of colonists, many disguised as Mohawk Indians, boarded 3 ships in Boston Harbor and dumped 342 chests of tea into the water. The Boston Tea Party wasn't really about tea or even the tax itself. It was a protest against Parliament's claim to rule the colonies without their consent. December 16, 1944, another surprise struck, this time in Europe. Nazi Germany launched its last major offensive of World War II, the Battle of the Bulge. In the snow-covered Ardennes, American forces were caught off guard by a massive German attack that created a temporary bulge in the Allied lines. Story of the day. Sacagawea was born around 1788 or 1789, a member of Lemhi Shoshone tribe, a small band living in what is now Idaho. Her childhood unfolded in the rugged valleys of the Rocky Mountains, a landscape of rivers, pines, and high meadows where her people hunted buffalo and salmon. When she was about 12 years old, her world collapsed. In 1800, a raiding party of Hidatsa warriors from the upper Missouri River attacked her village. Many were killed. Others, including Sacagawea, were taken captive. She was marched hundreds of miles east to the Hidatsa village near present-day Washburn, North Dakota, on the Knife River. There, among strangers, she was enslaved, traded along with other captives like property. In that village, she eventually came into the possession of a French-Canadian fur trapper named Toussaint Charbonneau, who either purchased or won her in a gambling game. He made her one of his wives. She was still a teenager. In the fall of 1804, when Meriwether Lewis and William Clark arrived in that same Hidatsa village, they were preparing for a journey that would define an era. Commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson, the core of discovery was to explore the newly acquired Louisiana Territory. Charting a route to the Pacific, studying plants and animals, and establishing trade with indigenous nations. They built Fort Mandan, near the Hidatsa villages, to wait out the brutal Dakota winter. During that time, they hired Charbonneau as an interpreter. The contact came with a surprise bonus. Sacagawea, then pregnant, would accompany them as well. Clark's journals record the decision almost casually, but it would prove crucial. Sacagawea spoke Shoshone, a language Lewis and Clark would need when crossing the Rockies. Her presence, a young native woman carrying an infant, would also signal to tribes that the expedition was peaceful. As Clark later noted, a woman with a party of men is a token of peace. On April 7, 1805, the Corps of Discovery set out from Fort Mandan in 6 canoes and 2 pirogues traveling west up the Missouri River. Sacagawea was just 17 years old and carried her 2-month-old son, Jean-Baptiste, on her back. The men affectionately called him Pomp, meaning little chief. Her endurance was extraordinary. She paddled, walked, and climbed across thousands of miles of harsh terrain, from the plains of Montana to the peaks of the Bitterroot Mountains. When one of the boats capsized in a violent windstorm, Charbonneau panicked. It was Sacagawea who calmly rescued precious documents, instruments, and supplies from the river, an act that earned her Lewis and Clark's lasting respect. Clark wrote in his journal, "The Indian woman has been a great service to me as a pilot through this country." But her greatest moment came when the expedition reached the Continental Divide, and Sacagawea discovered the Shoshone were nearby. Her own people, the tribe from which she had been torn away years before. It was one of those moments in history that feels scripted by fate. In August of 1805, the expedition encountered a group of Shoshone led by Chief Kamawait. As Sacagawea approached to translate, she suddenly recognized him, because he was her brother. Clark's journals describe the scene vividly, the young woman running forward, throwing a blanket over her brother's shoulders, both weeping with joy. Through that reunion, the expedition secured what it desperately needed: horses to cross the Rocky Mountains. Without them, the core of Discovery might have perished. Her personal story, reunion, survival, and loss, became the emotional heart of the expedition. But it's worth remembering, Sacagawea's role wasn't one of command. She wasn't directing the journey, she was enduring it. The trek over the mountains nearly destroyed them. The snow was waist deep, the temperatures freezing, food ran out, and men boiled candles and chewed leather. Through it all, Sacagawea carried her child, often on foot, guiding where she could, interpreting when possible, and mediating between strangers. When they finally reached the Pacific Ocean in November of 1805, she was among the first women of her people ever to see it. Clark noted her excitement when she first glimpsed at the vast roaring waves. She had walked nearly 4,000 miles. In August 1806, the expedition returned to the Hidatsa villages. Lewis and Clark rewarded Charbonneau and Sacagawea for their service. Clark, who had grown especially fond of her infant son, offered to raise and educate him in St. Louis. Sacagawea and Charbonneau briefly moved there, but then returned to the upper Missouri to work in the fur trade. After that, her trail grows faint, and her fate becomes a mystery. For 2 more centuries, historians have debated what became of Sacagawea. The official records from Fort Manuelisa, a trading post on the Missouri River, note that a woman identified as Sacagawea, wife of Charbonneau, died of putrid fever in December of 1812. If true, she was only about 25 years old. Clark's later documents seem to confirm this. In 1825, in a list of expedition members, he wrote beside her name, "Dead." But among native oral traditions, another story endures. According to Shoshone and Comanche sources, Sacagawea did not die in 1812. They say that she left Charbonneau, returned west, and then lived among the Wind River Shoshone in Wyoming, where she was known as Parivo, or the Chief Woman. There, she reportedly lived to an old age, dying in 1884 at the age of nearly 100. A grave marked Sacagawea actually still stands on the Wind River Reservation today. The evidence is inconclusive, but the persistence of both stories, one written by white men, the other preserved by her people, reflects the divided ways that America continues to remember her. Sacagawea's son, Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, lived a remarkable life of his own. Raised partly by William Clark in St. Louis, he was educated in both English and French, later traveling to Europe and even meeting royalty. He returned to the American West as a fur trader, scout, and mountain man, bridging the cultures his mother had navigated. When he died in 1866, far from his home, he was buried in Oregon, a wanderer like his mother before him. Their intertwined stories, mother and son, trace the contours of America itself: displacement, discovery, survival, and reinvention. In history news, A few months ago, under nearly 200 meters of cold Lake Superior water, historian investigators confirmed the wreck of the 1892 steamer SS Western Reserve, lost for 132 years, which has now at least been located. Once hailed as one of the safest and fastest freighters on the Great Lakes, built entirely of steel and nicknamed the Inland Greyhound, the Western Reserve cracked in half during a late summer gale on August 30th, 1892. 31 people, including the wealthy owner and several children aboard what was meant to be a leisure cruise, died when the ship sank in under 10 minutes. Only a single crewman survived. Sonar from the team a few months ago that discovered the wreck shows a haunting scene. The 300-foot vessel lying broken, bow and stern stacked, on the lake bottom at about 600 feet deep. A bell, a running light, its mast fallen, all silent artifacts frozen in time. This discovery isn't just about the submerged ship, though. It closes the chapter on one of the Great Lakes' most tragic mysteries that has been written about countless times ever since the ship sunk in 1892. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you have any comments or questions, you can shoot me an email at peter@historyshortspodcast.com or visit www.historyshortspodcast.com or look for History Shorts Podcast on Facebook, X, and Patreon. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.